You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't even need to be the most talented in the room. You just need to be the one who shows up again and again. Consistency compounds small actions into unstoppable transformation. When people talk about transformation, they often imagine it as a single massive breakthrough, a dramatic overnight success, or a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that changes everything. But the truth is that most transformations don't look like that. They don't arrive with fireworks, applause, or a clear sign that something extraordinary just happened. Real transformation is quiet. It's subtle. It grows day by day, built on the foundation of consistent action that most people overlook because it seems too small to matter. The irony is that the very things people dismiss as insignificant are the exact actions that, when repeated, carry the power to reshape a person's life. Think about the way compound interest works in finance. If you put away a small amount of money consistently, even if it feels like nothing at first, over time it grows into something massive because of the way it compounds. The same principle applies to personal growth, skill development, and character building. Every time you take a small action in the direction of your goals, that action doesn't just stand alone. It stacks with the one you did yesterday, the one you'll do tomorrow, and the one you'll repeat for weeks, months, and years. What feels like a single drop of water eventually becomes an ocean. That is the quiet power of consistency. It takes what looks ordinary and transforms it into something unstoppable. The challenge for most people is that they underestimate the weight of small actions. They convince themselves that skipping today doesn't matter, that missing one workout, one practice, one study session, one phone call, or one act of discipline won't make a difference in the long run. And maybe they're right if we isolate it to just a single day. But transformation doesn't live in isolation. It lives in accumulation. Missing one day isn't the problem. It's the habit of excusing days that kills growth. Consistency flips that equation. It turns ordinary repetition into extraordinary results. It says, I will show up no matter how I feel. I will keep planting seeds even when I don't see sprouts yet. I will keep pushing forward even when the results seem invisible. And in time, the invisible becomes undeniable. This is why the people you admire, athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, or anyone operating at a high level, seem like they've transformed into something beyond ordinary. They didn't get there because they had a single lucky break. They got there because they chose consistency when everyone else chose comfort. They kept swinging the bat when others put it down. They kept writing when others waited for inspiration. They kept practicing when others wanted quick results. Small actions, stacked day after day, transformed them into forces that now look unstoppable. The transformation wasn't magic. It was math. It was compounding. Consistency also transforms how you see yourself. Every time you follow through on a small action, you cast a vote for the type of person you believe you are. If you keep showing up to the gym, you start to see yourself as disciplined. If you consistently study, you begin to see yourself as someone who values learning. If you regularly make the hard choices that align with your goals, you start to internalize the identity of someone who is resilient and focused. An identity is powerful. Once you begin to believe you are consistent, you stop negotiating with yourself about whether or not you'll take action. You simply do it because it's who you are. That identity shift is the deepest transformation consistency offers. It rewires not just your habits, but your sense of self. The hard part is that consistency often feels invisible in the beginning. You put in the work and see little to no result. That's the stage where most people quit, not realizing they were on the edge of compounding gains. It's like standing in front of a block of stone with a chisel and hammer. You strike it again and again, and nothing seems to change. Then, after the 100th strike, the stone suddenly cracks. Was it the last strike that broke it? No. It was the accumulation of every strike before that, each one compounding until the transformation became visible. That's how small actions build unstoppable change. You don't always see it happening, but it is. Every rep, every page, every call, every disciplined choice is storing up energy, and one day it bursts into visible transformation. There's also something freeing about consistency. It removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with persistence. You don't have to be perfect in execution. You just have to keep showing up. Even if the workout wasn't your best, even if the study session didn't feel productive, even if the creative work didn't turn out how you wanted, it still counts. It still compounds. Because consistency isn't about individual victories. It's about the cumulative effect of choosing progress over time. It's about building momentum that no setback can permanently erase. When you've stacked enough consistent actions, even your bad days are outweighed by the sheer volume of effort you've already banked. Another important truth is that consistency creates resilience. Life will test you. Distractions, disappointments, failures, and frustrations will come. Most people break under those conditions because they rely on motivation, and motivation is fragile. It fades when things get hard, but consistency is different. Consistency doesn't care if you feel motivated. It doesn't care if circumstances are ideal. It thrives in difficulty because it's built on discipline, not on emotion. And every time you choose consistency in the face of resistance, you grow stronger. That strength compounds too. What used to break you no longer does, and what once seemed impossible starts to feel normal. That resilience is a form of transformation more powerful than talent, luck, or timing. In the long run, consistency doesn't just change your results, it changes your capacity. At first, the small actions you commit to might feel like a stretch. Maybe it's uncomfortable, maybe it's exhausting. But over time, what was once difficult becomes your new baseline. You adapt, you grow, you stretch beyond what you thought possible. And then you push that baseline higher with continued consistency. Before long, you look back and realize you've transformed into someone with more strength, more skill, more focus, and more perseverance than you ever imagined. That transformation didn't arrive in one big moment. It was earned in the quiet repetition of small actions that compounded into unstoppable growth. Discipline repeated daily turns ordinary effort into beast-level strength. At first, discipline feels like a burden. It feels like saying no when everyone else is saying yes, like choosing the harder path when the easy one is right there waiting for you. It feels like dragging yourself out of bed when every part of you wants to stay under the blanket, like showing up to work on your goals when no one is clapping, no one is cheering, and no one is watching. That's the reason so many people quit early. They mistake discomfort for defeat. But discipline, practiced day after day, is the invisible force that slowly transforms you from average to unstoppable. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by accident. It happens through repetition. Daily repetition is where ordinary effort becomes extraordinary. One workout doesn't make you strong. One disciplined meal doesn't transform your health. One day of focus doesn't build mastery. But one day repeated hundreds of times, that's what rewires your body, your mind, and your spirit. Discipline is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Anyone can sprint for a moment. Few can walk the marathon every single day. And that's why discipline is the separator. It's not glamorous, it doesn't always feel good, and it rarely gets noticed in the beginning. But like water wearing down rock, daily discipline breaks through resistance and creates strength where there was none. Think about how a muscle grows. You don't go to the gym once and expect to lift like a champion. You break the muscle down through small, ordinary repetitions. You feed it, you rest it, you return the next day, and you repeat the process. Over time, the ordinary movement builds extraordinary power. That's the blueprint for everything in life. Discipline is the training ground where strength is forged. Every day you choose it, you lay another brick in the foundation of beast-level capacity. And because it's repeated daily, it compounds. What once felt impossible becomes possible, and what once felt heavy becomes light. Discipline is also a teacher. It teaches you control. It teaches you patience. It teaches you the art of delayed gratification in a world that screams for instant reward. Every time you practice it, you remind yourself that you are not a slave to impulses, emotions, or distractions. You prove to yourself that you can delay comfort today for strength tomorrow. That repeated lesson begins to rewire your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That mental shift is the beginning of beast-level transformation because beasts aren't ruled by impulse. They are ruled by discipline. Most people underestimate the power of daily repetition because it feels so small. They think discipline means massive sacrifices and dramatic gestures, but in reality, it's usually quiet, ordinary effort. Waking up and making your bed, opening the book and reading the pages, writing down your goals every morning, practicing your skill for an hour when no one notices. These things don't feel powerful in isolation. They feel insignificant. But when stacked daily, they create unshakable momentum. And momentum is what ordinary people mistake for talent. They look at someone performing at a high level and think they're gifted, they're lucky, they're different. What they don't see are the thousands of small, disciplined actions repeated every single day that forged that strength. Discipline also builds resilience. When you commit to repeating disciplined actions every day, you're training yourself to perform under resistance. You're teaching your mind that feelings don't dictate actions. And when the inevitable challenges of life hit, failure, setbacks, rejection, loss, you don't crumble. You don't stop because you've trained yourself to keep going no matter what. That's the difference between ordinary effort and beast-level strength. Ordinary effort collapses under pressure. Beast-level strength thrives under it because it's been built in the fire of daily discipline. Another truth is that discipline compounds over time, not just in skill, but in confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you reinforce self-trust. You learn to believe your own word. Most people struggle with confidence not because they lack ability, but because they don't trust themselves to follow through. They break promises to themselves daily. They say they'll wake up early, but they hit snooze. They say they'll stay disciplined, but they quit when it gets hard. That erodes confidence at the core. Daily discipline reverses that erosion. It stacks evidence in your mind that you are reliable, that you can be counted on, that when you set your mind to something, you will do it. That kind of confidence is unshakable, and it becomes a strength that fuels every other part of your life. Daily discipline also sharpens focus. In a world filled with distractions, where attention is constantly pulled in 1,000 directions, the ability to concentrate is a superpower. Repetition of disciplined habits trains your brain to lock in on what matters and ignore what doesn't. Every time you say no to scrolling, to wasting hours, to indulging in comfort, and instead choose the disciplined path, you sharpen the blade of your focus. Over months and years, that focus separates you from the crowd. While others scatter their energy across meaningless pursuits, your daily repetition compounds into deep skill and mastery. That mastery is what looks like beast-level strength from the outside. The most powerful thing about daily discipline is that it multiplies itself. Once you develop it in one area, it spills into others. The discipline you build in fitness spills into your work. The discipline you build in your work spills into your relationships. The discipline you build in your habits spills into your mindset. It's not isolated. It creates a ripple effect. That's why ordinary effort becomes extraordinary. You think you're just training in one lane, but really you're rewiring your entire system to operate at a higher level. That systemic transformation is why disciplined people look like beasts. They've built a foundation of strength that touches every part of their life. And still, discipline is not about perfection. It's about persistence. Some days you will stumble. Some days you won't feel like it. Some days your effort won't be your best. That doesn't erase the discipline you've built. The power is in returning the next day and repeating the habit again. Discipline doesn't demand flawless execution. It demands relentless repetition. That's what transforms ordinary effort into something unstoppable. Not because every single action was perfect, but because every single action was repeated.